roster, their mindset, whatever it is for the 2021 season. Yes, even those Buccaneers. Today, though, we're kicking off our coverage in the AFC West with the Kansas City Chiefs. It is called Control, Alt, Compete. So we'll tell you what they need to do, little adjustments to figure it out and get the Lombardi Trophy in 2021. Okay, each week at NFL.com, Adam Rank is doing a State of the Franchise series. He talks about what teams need to do to compete, all of that. So in order to stay elite in the AFC West, I ask you, the Kansas City Chiefs need to do what? They added a few key players on the O-line. Of course, some defensive stars. They were added throughout the draft. They didn't do too much, but they did the right things, Peter. What do they have to do?
Okay, I was watching the golf this weekend. Patrick Mahomes rips a 347-yard drive, and I texted a source within the Chiefs organization. I said, well, Mahomes looks pretty good. And his response back was, I cannot freaking wait to get back to camp. We are so excited about this roster. So they think that they're going to get right back up and they're ready to go. And they have a completely rebuilt offensive line, as you mentioned, with Blythe. And of course, when you bring in the big boy Orlando Brown and then Tooney, like, they are going to have a different offensive line than what you saw in the Super Bowl. And yet, as excited as Kansas City fans may be, I think their biggest obstacle is the Bills. Like, the Bills and them, they play each other this year. They're going to go at it. But this is what I think is going to end up being a real worrisome situation, because Buffalo is in that situation where they've gotten to the playoffs 1 year, lost. AFC Championship game, smelled what it's like to be a game away from the Super Bowl. Now bringing back everybody. I think the Bills are a force to be reckoned with this year. And I go back to this AFC Championship game. It's the best game that we saw the Chiefs play in the playoffs. They were better this afternoon than they were against the Browns or, of course, in the Super Bowl. But gosh, to have these two teams go at it in the AFC Championship game, I think it was a preview of what we're looking at this year. And I think Buffalo's loaded. I think Josh Allen is going to come out of this thing out of the gates and give Mahomes all he can handle for an MVP challenge, but also maybe that all-pro challenge. And to me, it's Kansas City and Buffalo in the AFC. As much as we love Cleveland and we love Baltimore and we love some of these other teams that are upstart franchises in the AFC South and the AFC West, to me, this is the squad. It's the Bills. So for them to keep going and go to their third straight Super Bowl and their fourth straight conference championship game and get to the promised land again and be representing the AFC in Los Angeles in February, hold off the Bills. That's their biggest challenge. Buffalo's coming, and I don't think anyone's going to be surprised when they do.
No doubt about it. They will be better than last year. They're one of the best teams in the league. What do the Chiefs need to do to stay atop the AFC? They have to lean on what they do best. What do they do best? They pass the ball. Better than any other team in the business. Just drop back and let it fly. In 46 games that Patrick Mahomes has been in the NFL, he has over 14,000 passing yards, 114 pass TDs. I know you're saying, Nate, well, why are you just telling me numbers? Because these numbers should blow your mind. Don't get used to it just because he's done it year in and year out. I want you to appreciate it. And I, not only as a fan, as a viewer, but the Kansas City Chiefs need to go in and week out, not changing their game plan. Oftentimes, when you don't do something that you set out to do, when you don't win a Super Bowl in back-to-back years, like some people, talking about me, let me raise my hand, thought they would do this past year, they adjust. They say, all right, well, you know what? Let's go ahead and add a little bit more of a ground attack. You know what? Let's be a little bit more balanced. No. Forget about all that. You are averaging over 300 passing yards a game. You need to go up there and do that every single week, because more than anything, forget about how you may feel going into each game. Every defensive coordinator, every defensive back, linebacker, cornerback, defensive lineman, they fear the passing game for the Kansas City Chiefs. So don't change your game going into this season. Do what you do best. You make everybody else adjust. That's how they stay atop not only the AFC, but the entire NFL.
Nate, you're totally right, but here's the thing. It's a little bit hard to pass if Patrick Mahomes is running for his life, which we saw in the Super Bowl. So I would argue that the single most important thing is that this offensive line play way better. And clearly the Chiefs recognize that. That's where they spent their money this offseason. That's where they focused. They bid adieu to Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz. They made Joe Thuney the highest paid guard in the entire NFL. Orlando Brown, a young man that I got to know in Baltimore, is now in as the left tackle. This is all great, There's clearly a lot of talent there, but of course we all know that offensive line play is about chemistry and how these five guys work together. So I have to say it was really good to hear Patrick Mahomes say after mandatory minicamp that he was really impressed with how well these guys were meshing. And I think his exact quote was that if you went in the locker room, you felt as if these linemen had known each other forever. So that to me is the biggest indicator of whether this group is going to be successful. But no matter what you do schematically, it all starts up front. And so, okay, it's got to be that O-line, and that O-line has to play way better.
It's so true. Happy to hear Patrick Mahomes looking healthy out there on the fairway, and also with some little inside scoop from Schrager there. Schrags, I love the Bills. I love them. You love them. We as a show love them. Sell me on this a little more, because that AFC Championship game, to me, still showed that there's a lot of separation between the Chiefs and the Bills. I mean, the Chiefs spotted them 9-0. Spotted them a lead, and they still ran away with it completely. So tell me what it is, or even more importantly, who it is on that team that should get me excited that the Bills are the team that can take them out.
Yeah, look, I 100% agree with you that game was as one-sided as it comes. So how can I say, well, they're going to be the team? They added Greg Rousseau, they added Boogie Basham, they added pass rush, they got two big new offensive tackles. And it's one of these things where teams evolve. It was like the Ravens would lose to the Patriots, and then finally beat the Patriots. And then it was the Ravens winning a Super Bowl. And we've seen it in the the last couple of years where teams are chipping away. The Chiefs would lose to the Patriots, then finally get over the Patriots hump. I feel like this is the year if the Bills are going to do it. They've chipped at the Chiefs the last couple of seasons. Now it's their time to get to the mountain. But you're right. It is the Chiefs looking down on everybody else over the last 3 years in the AFC.
It's like Usain Bolt running that 200 or that 100, and he's just looking back at the guy chasing him. That's what I feel like the Chiefs were to the Bills. But Peter, I do agree with you 100%. But Aditi, you made a valid point, and I agree with you. They need to fix that offensive line. I remember watching that game and sitting up there thinking to myself, how are the Chiefs going to go into next season if Patrick Mahomes is running around like this? Now, first, they addressed their offensive line. Of course, they needed to do that. But we have to keep in mind, though, because I almost wrote off the Chiefs for a second. And I know people at home are saying nature being dramatic. No, but I almost did for a quick second because I'm thinking to myself, could what we saw from that Bucs defense be the blueprint on how to dominate the Chiefs moving forward? But then I have to quickly bring myself down to earth and think to myself, how many teams are as good as the Bucs defense? Peter, you talked about it a little bit earlier. Like, that defensive line, phenomenal. The linebackers, incredible. The cornerbacks, older and younger, they were stupendous. The back end, the safeties, everybody played as great as they could play. And not to mention, they had a tremendous game plan. There were individuals that were close to the Buccaneers organization that I ran into the night before the Super Bowl, and they told me, Nate, change your pick. I laughed. I said, I'm Nate. I got to do my thing. I made a prediction at the beginning of the season. If I get it right, everybody's going to love me. They were like, no, Nate, forget all the jokes. Change your pick. We have a game plan, and our defense will dominate that Chiefs offense. So I bring all this up because as much as I wanted to panic about that offensive line and Patrick Mahomes running around with the big toe that was busted, how many teams will they face that will look like that Buccaneers defense? I don't believe there's many. I really don't.
But it's just one more piece to that too, Nate, right? It's not just what Todd Bowles did to the Chiefs. And of course, everybody's studying that. Andy Reid is doing his work this offseason too. So he's figuring out how to make sure that no defense can do exactly what Todd Bowles did. And that's what the magic of football is that you're constantly evolving in some way. So again, the Chiefs are definitely in the elite. I think that the AFC is incredibly fun. We talked in the last block about how we don't know who the contenders in the NFC are. Obviously, I'm biased because now I'm an AFC gal, but I just feel like there's a lot of intrigue in this conference, and I'm pretty pumped.
For sure.
Oh, we'll talk about the Browns potentially being Super Bowl contenders, Aditi. Duh. I cannot wait for that conversation. It's coming up. We'll talk Saints. We have Lane Johnson stopping by the show, Patrick McQueen. It'll be great.